There's a lot of good hidden gems on this album that really just never took off. We're on to the last song of the album, which is number 12, called Drop in the Bucket. Here's a clip. And the guitar crunch is perfect here. The guitars are up front and in your face, just like on It's Showtime. The chorus is kind of poppy for this hard rock song, and then there's this sort of kind of dreamy bridge at 2 minutes and 45 seconds with harmonica. It's interesting how he ties that all together, kind of brings all the themes of the album in here and there. Jason brings it back around at about 3 minutes and 15
seconds. Some nice bass work by Matt Bissonette at that break, too.
Yeah, the rest of it, it's so funny. We get to about 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and the rest of the song is instrumental. It's almost like they didn't know how to finish the song, so they just kind of let it go.
I thought it was a great way to end the album. I do like that little jammy thing they're doing at the end. Jason has some phenomenal guitar work he's doing there. I just think it's a great album ender, and also one of the best songs on the album. It just shows you what Jason was capable of, not only as a guitarist, but as a songwriter.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Now, I would say like Drop in the Bucket and It's Showtime is sort of in one basket by itself, like I said. And, Dogtown Shuffle goes in with Last Call and goes in that basket together. And, 40 Below with Hammerhead Shark and Sensible Shoes and Tell the Truth and Lady Luck goes together, and Shoot It goes with A Little Ain't Enough. There's little pockets of different things here, but I don't know. So this is the biggest. Here's the fourth blow to Dave. Another fourth blow that happened here. Strike number 4. Okay. At the end of the album, lead guitarist Jason Becker gets diagnosed with ALS, which is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It's Lou Gehrig's disease at the end of the recording, and he can't tour. So, strike number 4 here, and then he had to be replaced on tour with the guy Joe Holmes. The album only went gold, reaching 18 on the Billboard 200 charts, which is not good for Dave, that's for sure. Meanwhile, when Van Halen comes out with For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, they blow up. That album was huge for them with Pound Cake and Top of the World, and especially Right Now became a global anthem. Dave's tour started in Europe, and they were doing full sets, Dave, with a lot of album tracks. There's a lot of these shows on YouTube. Check them out. Totally playing all these tracks.
Well, and he had 2 guitarists on tour.
Yes, he did.
Europe.
Yes, he did.
Or most of the tour.
Right, and Steve was not on tour with him.
No, he wasn't. And obviously, neither was Jason, which is too bad, which is such a shame, because the guy had such a promising future.
Right.
And, obviously, he could write great songs. Drop in the Bucket, I thought that was one of the better songs on the album.
Fantastic. And
a great way to end the album, too. But anyway, onto the tour. Yeah, Dave was doing full shows, Dave always has done that when he was promoting a new album. Well, not always, but usually when he was promoting a new album, he would do a lot of songs off the new album. So when they were touring in Europe and he had 2 guitarists, he was doing a lot of songs off A Little Ain't Enough.
Right.
But then there was some kind of kerfluffle with one of the guitarists, and he wasn't on the tour anymore.
Right.
And by the time Dave came to the States, he wasn't doing nearly as many songs.
Oh, no,
A Little
please.
Ain't Enough.
We got totally gypped. I'm going to say it to you right now. So this was the set list in the States. So when Dave came to the States, he was on a triple bill with Extreme, Cinderella, and himself. And he was only doing 13 to 14 songs and only 2 new ones. This was his set list, his basic set list. Yankee Rose, California Girls, Just a Gigolo. Just Like Paradise, Ain't Talking About Love, Hot for Teacher, Jump, Panama, Beautiful Girls, Easy Street, You Really Got Me, Unchained, Ice Cream Man. And then he would throw in A Little Ain't Enough and Tell the Truth in the set list. And that was pretty much the set. because Little Ain't Enough was the lead track, and Tell the Truth was the new single by the time they got to the States. In Europe, he was doing Sensible Shoes, Baby's on Fire, Shoot It, Lady Luck, 40 Below, Hammerhead Shark, and Showtime and Last Call. Never did Drop in the Bucket, Dave. He was playing...
No, well, that's because he had two guitarists to do those songs.
I know. And he was playing in Sweden and Germany and Finland and England and Ireland, and he was playing at festivals and all kinds of stuff. It was a totally different situation, but things were not doing well for Roth. This album did not take off and do what it was supposed to do. It went gold, but he was hanging by a thread. He had one more album on his contract for Warner Brothers, and that was Your Filthy Little Mouth. You can check out that episode where he discussed that. But, Dave, what do you make of this whole project?
The project was an attempt at a return to form.
Right.
To keep Dave going in what he was good at. And in a lot of aspects, it succeeds. I mean, he had a hot stuff guitarist who was going to be the next big thing. He brought in outside songwriters so he would have solid songs. He got himself a kick-ass producer who did that is a phenomenal sounding album.
Right.
Again, Bob Rock just knocked it out of the park.
Yep.
Motley Crue, the Dr. Feelgood album by Motley Crue, phenomenal. The Black Album by Metallica, phenomenal. This album sonically sounds just as good. So from that aspect, Dave did well.
Yep.
But it wasn't meant to be because 1991 hair metal, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
The cracks were starting to show because by the time Nirvana came around, which was that late 91?
It was
early
September. Well, Nirvana was around, but September 91 is when Nevermind came out.
Okay. So that's when it all dropped pretty fast. So it's not like grunge was around when Dave's album came out, but I think that was the time people were... they were starting to get tired and exhausted of that kind of music. And it wasn't helping Dave at all that videos were getting banned.
Yep.
He was starting to slip. And unfortunately, he just never recovered.
No.
When he went on tour and he came to the States, he was touring with Cinderella and Extreme.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Extreme was really popular at that time. They were like one of the last popular hair metal bands, for lack of a better term.
Right.
I mean, I think we've said this a few times on the podcast. I remember we went to that show, and all we saw were people in Extreme T-shirts.
Right,
And a lot of them left after Extreme came off the stage.
It was
sad. They were the opening act. They were the first band.
That's right.
I think I remember we showed up. We had missed most of their set, much to our chagrin later on.
Yeah.
So this was like the beginning of the end for Dave, unfortunately. But it wasn't for lack of trying. The album is good, but it's not, comparatively speaking, it's not like in the top David Lee Roth albums. I think Eat 'Em and Smile is up there. I think Skyscraper is better, believe it or not.
Okay.
Despite all the synthy stuff. I think DLR Band is better. That's a massively underrated album.
Right.
This album maybe comes after that, so it's kind of in the middle of the David Lee Roth catalog. I mean, it's not bad. It's good.
Yeah.
It's one of those albums I put on from time to time. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is pretty good. But then I won't... It's not like Eat 'Em and Smile, where that's like a go-to for me.
Yeah, well, that's a classic. That's for sure. I feel a little bit different than you. I actually like this better than Skyscraper or Crazy from the Heat. I really enjoy the blues vibe he was going for there. There is a little too much synth here and there for me, and I like some of the guitars that get turned up, but the pairing of Jason and Steve, I think, was phenomenal, and I think there was some really good songs here, and I think Dave was in good voice. I think the production is great. I think it's a solid, really good album. I think it's very underrated, to be honest with you. I don't understand why this album is maligned. I think the cover wasn't great. I wasn't crazy about that. It almost looks like a stock photo, right? With the devil. What is he, like holding his stomach. I mean, it's just like a strange image of the two
Yeah,
devils.
he's like holding his stomach. I actually have a pin of that from that tour. I bought the pin.
Right, yeah,
and
it's
I still
interesting.
have it. Well, and maybe he had to come up with it at the last minute because he had to, scrap the first concept. But while we're talking about the album artwork, let's talk about a couple of things. Number one, in the booklet, there's a picture of a shark. It's not even a hammerhead shark.
No, that's so strange. It's
right? I mean, it's like a guy with his head in a shark that's on land.
I know.
And it's one of those weird David Lee Roth pictures.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and I don't know how we got away with this, you had mentioned in the Little Ain't Enough video there was some blackface going on.
Yeah.
In the CD booklet, there was also some blackface going on. And I mean like blatant.
Yeah.
It's not subtle. And it's in there twice.
There's
know. Two pictures. And this is 1991.
Yeah.
It's not 1941.
I know, exactly.
So, blackface then was certainly known as like something you shouldn't do.
Right.
So to this day, it shocks me that there was, and the word of this podcast is kerfluffle. There was no kerfluffle. There was no stink. There was nothing made about that.
Okay.
Which kind of like shocked me. I really don't know how Dave got away with that.
You know what I would like to see, believe it or not, and I have never been able to find, is the cover that got rejected. I always wanted to see that. I've
always been keeping an eye open for that because I was insanely curious. And to this day, I've never seen it.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be like called Cutting Out, like cut, like, and like the N apostrophe from Guns N' Roses out. It was, he didn't really fully explain what he was going for. He explained what the photo was, and I literally am always trying to put the woman with the negligee, with the scissors, with the bomber. I'm like, how does this all come together? Like, what exactly is going on? So if any of you out there know of it, have seen it, let us know. Email us at ddunchainedpodcast@gmail.com. It would be great. I'd love to see it. I'd love anybody's take on it, too. And that's for sure. There's some really interesting tidbits on this album. You wonder, what about this? What about that? It's kind of incredible. You wonder, though, if there was someone at MTV that was, like, just shutting Dave down. Because it's like, nah, we're not doing this video. Nah, we're not doing that video. It's just like, okay, is he just getting, like, blacklisted or something? Like, it's just a little...
you wonder, because there's certainly other artists who are getting away with stuff.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something.
Although I remember when Van Halen, I think it was the Pound Cake video.
The Pound Cake video had to be re-edited.
Right, right. So there definitely was something going on at that time. And oh, by the way, while we're talking about Van Halen, both album covers have a red and black motif.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Right?
Good point.
So I don't think that was done on purpose. I just think that was a coincidence. But it's interesting how these guys put albums out the same year. They got the same color scheme going.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Both bands go back to a big rock sound.
Right.
Because Van Halen did the same thing. They went with Andy Johns. And talk about a big drum sound.
Right.
Al gets that big drum sound.
Right.
And, for Van Halen, they didn't have many keyboards on that album at all. And Dave had, I know you don't like some of the keyboard songs on, or the keyboard sounds, I should say,
I just think
on
it's
A Little Ain't Enough. But I still think Dave had toned that down a lot.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of similarities.
I agree. It's toned down from Skyscraper for sure. I'm just saying to suit the song. Like, certain songs, it's like, I was just listening to it in earphones, and like, I can just like, that synth is too much. Like, pull the guitar up and pull the synth back a little bit. I'm not saying the synth is bad. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, sometimes it's a little too strikingly forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing is I have to get you a pair of earbuds.
I have earbuds. What are you talking about?
Okay. Well, because you're definitely sound an old man when you say earphones. So we got to...
Okay, I have earbuds and earphones. No, but listen, I have both. I got
I'm just
both.
busting your
No, it's all right. It's all right.
As far as David Lee Roth versus Van Halen thing goes, I'm throwing my hat to For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. This album is good, but that one's better.
Right.